The Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly, a vast expanse of blue that concealed both opportunity and peril. In the summer of 1942, the United States faced the daunting task of halting Japanese expansion in the Pacific, a threat that had already toppled European colonial outposts and left islands under enemy control. Guadalcanal, a narrow strip of land in the Solomon Islands, would become the stage for the first major American offensive. For the Marines, the assault represented not just a strategic mission but a test of their endurance, training, and resolve. Months of intelligence, planning, and reconnaissance had preceded the landings, each detail painstakingly calculated against a determined adversary. Japanese fortifications and airfields threatened Allied shipping routes, and a successful seizure could mark the turning of the tide. The assault began under the veil of pre-dawn darkness, with landing craft slicing through choppy waves. Marines gripped their rifles, hearts pounding against the rhythm of the surf and distant explosions. The beaches were narrow, bordered by dense jungle and treacherous reefs, making the approach deadly. Artillery fire from the transports pounded Japanese positions, yet the enemy's discipline and preparation meant that every inch gained was paid for in blood. Even as men struggled through water and sand, leadership demanded cohesion, coordination, and relentless determination. Each Marine faced not only the enemy but the fear of the unknown, the chaotic swirl of smoke, and the cries of comrades. By midday, small units had established precarious footholds, yet the jungle and Japanese snipers slowed every advance. Logistics became a lifeline. Ammunition, food, and medical support had to be ferried across water and terrain under fire. The command structure adapted quickly, relying on initiative and improvisation, and even the smallest acts of bravery, carrying a wounded comrade, leading a squad through machine gun fire, reverberated across the battlefield. Marines learned to fight not only the enemy but the environment itself. Tropical heat, disease, and exhaustion compounded the agony of combat. By nightfall, the first day's gains were modest but vital, a testament to discipline under fire. The Japanese, refusing to relinquish territory, counterattacked with disciplined assaults and artillery barrages. Every hill and ridge became a contested zone, a microcosm of the war itself. The Marines' ability to hold positions and repel waves of attacks signaled a new reality. The United States could fight offensively in the Pacific, not just defend. Air superiority, still tenuous, became an essential component, with Marine and Navy pilots striking enemy positions from carriers and airfields. Guadalcanal transformed from an isolated island into a crucible of modern warfare, where strategy, courage, and improvisation coalesced in the chaos of battle. Beyond the tactical objectives, Guadalcanal forged a psychological victory. Marines endured weeks of supply shortages, swarms of disease-carrying mosquitoes, and relentless enemy fire. Yet each small triumph, capturing a ridge, securing a supply point, surviving a night of bombardment, contributed to the broader strategic picture. The Japanese command recognized the shift. The United States was no longer a distant, untested force. Morale, often overlooked in military analyses, became a decisive factor. Guadalcanal demonstrated that victory in the Pacific required not only superior firepower, but the unwavering resolve of individuals willing to endure unimaginable hardship. As the weeks unfolded, the battle evolved into a grueling campaign of attrition. Reinforcements arrived, and Marines adjusted tactics to the terrain, employing coordinated patrols and small unit maneuvers. The jungle, once an obstacle, became both shield and snare, offering concealment while demanding constant vigilance. Every step forward was measured against the cost in human life. Yet the strategic imperative, to deny Japan control of critical sea lanes, demanded perseverance. By the campaign's end, Guadalcanal had shifted the momentum of the Pacific War, proving that the United States could challenge the Japanese on equal terms and setting the stage for more audacious assaults to come. The aftermath left a scarred landscape of burned-out equipment, shattered fortifications, and exhausted survivors. Yet amidst the devastation, the Marines' achievements resonated far beyond the island's shores. Strategic ports remained accessible, Japanese expansion was blunted, and confidence surged within the Allied command. The campaign had transformed inexperienced troops into battle-hardened veterans, prepared for the challenges of increasingly deadly amphibious operations. Guadalcanal was no longer merely an island. It became a symbol of American resolve, a proving ground where courage and determination had begun to alter the course of the war. The lessons of Guadalcanal informed every subsequent operation. Naval coordination, air-ground integration, and logistical planning became more sophisticated. Commanders recognized the need for overwhelming firepower at the point of landing, as well as the importance of psychological resilience among troops. The assault had demonstrated that victory in the Pacific required a combination of strategy, endurance, and human willpower, laying the foundation for the campaigns at Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa. The story of Guadalcanal, etched in sweat, blood, and courage, became the prologue to a broader narrative, the relentless American drive to reclaim the Pacific. 1 year later, the United States Marine Corps faced a new and even more formidable challenge: Tarawa Atoll, a tiny island in the Gilbert Islands chain. November 20th, 1943, would mark the beginning of an assault that shocked the world with its intensity and ferocity. Tarawa was a fortress, bristling with concrete bunkers, barbed wire, and artillery emplacements designed to repel any amphibious invasion. Intelligence underestimated the challenges of coral reefs and tides, and the result would be a baptism of fire for American forces. Yet the strategic value of Tarawa was undeniable. Control of the island offered a critical stepping stone toward the Mariana Islands and, ultimately, Japan itself. The assault commenced at first light, with waves of landing craft delivering Marines into an inferno. Many boats became grounded on the coral reef, forcing men to wade hundreds of yards under a hail of machine gun fire. The noise of artillery, naval bombardment, and human screams mingled in a deafening symphony, etching terror and resolve into every Marine's memory. Despite heavy casualties, small units adapted, using smoke, terrain, and coordinated assaults to neutralize enemy positions. Tarawa revealed the brutal realities of amphibious warfare. Even overwhelming numerical advantage could not guarantee survival without meticulous planning and courage under fire. Leadership became a lifeline in the chaos. Officers and non-commissioned officers led by example, rallying men in the open, often at the cost of their lives. Each bunker cleared, each foxhole secured, represented both a tactical victory and a testament to individual bravery. The Marines developed improvisational strategies, using flamethrowers, demolition charges, and close-quarters combat to overcome entrenched Japanese positions. In these moments, the fog of war collided with human determination, and every advance became a story of personal heroism intertwined with strategic necessity. Casualties mounted, and the relentless intensity tested morale. Yet the Marines persisted, driven by the knowledge that failure would prolong the war and imperil countless lives. Tarawa exposed the importance of logistics and timing in amphibious operations, as supply lines struggled to keep pace with the rapidly shifting front lines. Medics and stretcher-bearers moved under fire, ensuring that even the gravely wounded had a chance to survive. In every action, the interplay between preparation, improvisation, and sheer willpower shaped the outcome, creating lessons that would inform the even more complex assaults to come. Tarawa's geography magnified every challenge. The low-lying island offered no cover, and every movement risked exposure to enemy fire. Marines learned to use every feature of the terrain creatively, advancing along ditches, tidal pools, and coral ridges. Coordination with naval gunfire became crucial, as ships adjusted their targeting based on real-time reports from forward observers. The integration of air and sea power with ground maneuvers reached a new level of sophistication, signaling a shift in American amphibious doctrine. Tarawa was not only a test of courage, but a crucible of tactical innovation. By nightfall, the island had largely fallen to American forces, but the cost was staggering. Thousands of Marines were killed or wounded in less than 72 hours, a stark reminder that victory in the Pacific came at an extraordinary human price. The lessons of Tarawa would resonate in military planning for years to come. The importance of intelligence, the value of pre-landing bombardment, and the need for specialized landing equipment became critical components of operational doctrine. Tarawa forced military strategists to confront the brutal arithmetic of war, where every objective exacted a toll measured in lives. The psychological impact extended far beyond the battlefield. Photographs and reports of the carnage shocked the American public, revealing the true intensity of the Pacific War. Yet these images also fostered admiration for the Marines' bravery and underscored the urgency of sustaining momentum against Japan. Tarawa became emblematic of the challenges ahead. Amphibious assaults against fortified islands would continue, each more complex and deadly than the last. The human cost was high, but the strategic gains were undeniable, clearing a path for operations deeper into the Japanese defensive perimeter. Tarawa marked a turning point in amphibious warfare. Lessons learned here informed the planning for subsequent assaults, particularly the invasions of Iwo Jima and Okinawa. Engineers, tacticians, and combat leaders adapted quickly, improving landing craft, artillery coordination, and pre-assault reconnaissance. Every painful lesson became a tool for survival, a step toward reducing casualties while maximizing effectiveness. The Marines had endured a trial by fire, emerging hardened, wiser, and prepared for the monumental battles yet to come. By early 1945, the Pacific War had reached a critical phase. The United States had seized islands across the Central Pacific, moving ever closer to the Japanese home islands. Iwo Jima, a small volcanic island barely 8 square miles in area, had become the next formidable objective. Its strategic importance lay in its airfields, which could serve as emergency landing strips for bombers attacking Japan and as a base for fighter escorts. Japanese defenders, commanded by Lieutenant General Tadamaki Kurabayashi, had transformed the island into a fortress of tunnels, bunkers, and artillery emplacements, concealing troops in a network that defied conventional assault. The Marines faced the daunting reality that Iwo Jima would be fought inch by inch, each step measured against ferocious resistance. The landing began at dawn on February 19, 1945. Marines disembarked from landing crafts into a hellish scene of crashing waves and thick volcanic ash. Artillery from the fleet pounded the beaches, but Japanese fortifications had been built to withstand naval bombardment. Machine gun nests, snipers, and hidden artillery positions exacted a horrific toll. The ash, while soft, slowed movement and made traction difficult, turning each advance into a struggle against both enemy fire and the unforgiving terrain. Despite these obstacles, Marines pushed forward, guided by rigorous training, discipline, and a resolve forged in earlier battles like Tarawa and Guadalcanal. Japanese strategy emphasized attrition. Rather than counterattacking in open terrain, defenders used tunnels and caves to stage ambushes, emerging unexpectedly to inflict maximum casualties. Every hill, ridge, and bunker became a deadly tableau, demanding meticulous clearing operations. Flamethrowers and explosives became essential tools, as small units worked methodically to neutralize enemy positions. The chaos of battle, combined with the ingenuity of the Japanese defense, created an environment where every Marine had to improvise under extreme stress, navigating a labyrinth of death and destruction with courage and precision. Air support provided intermittent relief, but was often hampered by the island's geography and smoke from bombardments. Close coordination with naval gunfire and infantry maneuvers was critical to avoid friendly fire while suppressing enemy positions. Each advance brought Marines closer to objectives, yet the toll on morale and physical endurance was immense. Exhaustion, heat, and the psychological strain of continuous combat tested even the most seasoned soldiers. Yet every captured bunker and cleared ridge represented not only tactical progress, but a testament to human perseverance under extreme adversity. Medical evacuation became a logistical nightmare. Casualties piled up on the beaches and in makeshift aid stations, and medics worked under constant threat of incoming fire. The wounded were often moved by fellow Marines, who risked their lives to ensure their comrades survived. The human cost of Iwo Jima was staggering, yet the resilience of the Marines underscored their ability to endure and adapt. This combination of courage, ingenuity, and brotherhood became a defining feature of the Pacific campaigns, revealing both the brutality of war and the capacity of individuals to rise above fear. The iconic image of the flag raising on Mount Suribachi would later capture global attention, but the reality of the battle was far more complex and relentless. Marines continued to fight across the island for weeks, facing hidden snipers, booby traps, and fortified positions that required systematic and methodical assaults. The volcanic terrain offered little cover, and progress was measured in yards rather than miles. Each engagement reinforced lessons from earlier campaigns. The integration of firepower, intelligence, and leadership could overcome even the most formidable defenses, but at a tremendous human cost. Iwo Jima also revealed the psychological warfare inherent in prolonged combat. The Japanese defenders, aware of their inevitable defeat, fought with an intensity that often defied expectation, inspiring both fear and respect. Marines endured the strain of constant vigilance, where a single misstep could be fatal. Letters home, photographs, and personal accounts would later convey the magnitude of suffering, camaraderie, and heroism, painting a vivid portrait of sacrifice and determination. The island, though small, became a microcosm of the Pacific War, encapsulating its complexity, lethality, and strategic significance. By the campaign's end, the Marines had secured the island, but the toll was staggering. Thousands of Americans and virtually the entire Japanese garrison were dead. The victory provided a critical staging point for operations against the Japanese home islands and highlighted the importance of amphibious doctrine, combined arms, and adaptive leadership. Iwo Jima would remain an enduring symbol of courage, sacrifice, and the relentless drive to achieve strategic objectives under the most brutal conditions imaginable, shaping the final phases of the Pacific conflict. Following Iwo Jima, the focus shifted to Okinawa, the largest amphibious assault of the Pacific War. Okinawa represented the final stepping stone toward Japan, a sprawling island with a population of over 300,000 civilians and heavily fortified by an entrenched Japanese army. Operation Iceberg, as it was codenamed, involved over 180,000 U.S. troops and extensive naval and air forces, signaling the Allies' commitment to securing victory through overwhelming force. The stakes were clear. Success would provide a base for bombers and a platform for the anticipated invasion of the Japanese home islands, while failure would prolong the war and cost countless lives. The invasion began on April 1, 1945, under the cover of naval bombardment and pre-assault airstrikes. Marines and soldiers landed on wide beaches, only to encounter fierce resistance from well-dug-in defenders. Kamikaze attacks against the naval fleet added a new dimension of danger, striking ships with explosive precision and causing significant casualties. Okinawa demonstrated the evolution of Japanese tactics, combining conventional defense with desperate suicide missions to maximize Allied losses. The assault demanded extraordinary coordination among land, sea, and air units, testing the limits of logistical planning and battlefield ingenuity. Terrain played a pivotal role in shaping the campaign. Okinawa's hills, caves, and ridges allowed Japanese forces to stage counterattacks and ambushes, while civilians often became trapped in the crossfire. Marines faced daily artillery barrages, sniper fire, and hidden obstacles, requiring constant vigilance and adaptive strategies. Each advance required meticulous planning, with small unit tactics, smoke screens, and coordinated artillery fire critical to success. The psychological and physical strain on soldiers reached new heights as the battle extended over months rather than days, turning Okinawa into a grueling war of attrition on a massive scale. Kamikaze attacks added an unpredictable, deadly element to the conflict. Pilots sacrificed themselves to destroy ships, often targeting troop transports, destroyers, and carriers. These attacks inflicted both physical damage and psychological terror, forcing naval crews to remain constantly alert. The human cost was immense, with sailors and soldiers witnessing colleagues perish in fiery explosions. Yet despite the fear and destruction, morale and resolve held firm, demonstrating the resilience and cohesion forged through previous Pacific campaigns. Civilian populations complicated the battle. Okinawans were caught between Japanese defenders, who often used them as human shields or conscripts, and the advancing U.S. forces. Many civilians perished in the crossfire or from forced labor and starvation, highlighting the war's profound human cost beyond military casualties. Marines and soldiers often acted to protect civilians when possible, balancing operational objectives with ethical considerations. The interplay between military necessity and humanitarian concerns added a unique moral dimension to the Okinawa campaign. The Battle of Okinawa also emphasized the evolution of combined arms tactics. Artillery, armor, infantry, and air support had to function in near-perfect synchronization to overcome entrenched defenses. Engineers constructed roads, bridges, and field hospitals under fire, while logistics units ensured a steady flow of supplies, ammunition, and medical care. The integration of these elements demonstrated the sophistication and adaptability of U.S. military operations, forged through years of experience in earlier Pacific campaigns. By June 1945, after nearly 3 months of intense combat, Okinawa was secured. The victory came at a staggering cost. Over 12,000 Americans were killed, tens of thousands wounded, and countless Japanese soldiers and civilians perished. The campaign underscored the brutal reality that victory in the Pacific required overwhelming force, meticulous planning, and extraordinary resilience. It also provided a sobering preview of the potential casualties expected in an invasion of the Japanese home islands, influencing strategic decisions in the closing months of the war. Okinawa marked both the culmination of the Pacific Island hopping campaign and a turning point in strategic planning. The battle highlighted the lethal combination of terrain, entrenched defenses, and determined opponents, while emphasizing the critical importance of leadership, logistics, and morale. The Marines and soldiers who fought there carried forward the lessons learned from Guadalcanal, Tarawa, and Iwo Jima, demonstrating the evolution of American combat doctrine and the unyielding resolve that would eventually bring the war to a decisive conclusion. The campaigns across Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa revealed the evolution of amphibious warfare and the human cost of island combat. Each assault had become a proving ground for new strategies, weapons, and tactics. Intelligence, reconnaissance, and pre-landing bombardments were refined with every battle, while lessons in coordination among infantry, artillery, air, and naval forces became indispensable. Marines and soldiers learned that success depended not only on firepower, but on adaptability, initiative, and cohesion under relentless pressure. The Pacific War had become a laboratory of human endurance and strategic innovation. The psychological strain on combatants was profound. Marines faced environments that combined natural obstacles with ferocious defenders, forcing them to confront both fear and exhaustion daily. Letters home, diaries, and post-war accounts describe a constant tension between hope and terror. The rhythm of battle was punctuated by brief moments of camaraderie, shared meals in makeshift foxholes, and acts of extraordinary courage, offering fleeting relief from the chaos of war. Yet the awareness of mortality remained ever present, shaping every decision and every step forward. Strategic command learned to balance aggression with caution. Over time, planners recognized that minimizing casualties required overwhelming firepower at the point of contact, precise intelligence on enemy positions, and the ability to sustain supply lines under fire. The Pacific Islands' geography dictated new tactics. Coral reefs, volcanic ash, dense jungles, and hidden ridges forced innovative approaches to landing operations. Engineers became as vital as frontline troops, constructing landing facilities, clearing obstacles, and enabling mobility under fire. Every success in logistics and coordination translated into lives saved and objectives achieved. Amphibious doctrine evolved rapidly. Lessons from Tarawa and Iwo Jima underscored the importance of specialized landing vehicles, coordinated naval gunfire, and synchronized air support. Commanders implemented detailed rehearsals, contingency plans, and communication protocols to reduce confusion during the initial moments of assault. Each adjustment, born from bitter experience, increased the odds of survival while maximizing the Marines' offensive capability. This iterative process of learning under fire became a hallmark of U.S. operations in the Pacific. The human dimension extended beyond combatants. Civilians endured suffering on occupied islands, often caught in the crossfire or subjected to forced labor. Their plight highlighted the war's moral and ethical complexity. Marines frequently faced difficult choices, balancing military necessity with the protection of noncombatants. In many cases, small acts of humanity, sharing food, treating the wounded, or providing shelter, became crucial in maintaining morale and asserting a sense of purpose amidst overwhelming violence. Innovation on the battlefield accelerated under necessity. Flamethrowers, demolition charges, artillery barges, and coordinated fire support became central to clearing bunkers and fortified positions. Close-quarters combat, often in tunnels and caves, required ingenuity and courage, while the integration of engineering units allowed for mobility and logistical support in hostile terrain. Every island assault sharpened operational precision, making each subsequent campaign more sophisticated and survivable, though never less deadly. Media coverage and wartime reporting began to shape public perception. Photographs of Marines raising flags, moments of heroism, and stories of sacrifice became symbolic touchstones for the American public. Yet the images often obscured the harsh realities. Countless men endured trauma, disfigurement, and death in conditions that testing imagination. The disconnect between sanitized depictions and lived experience underscored the emotional burden carried by those who fought in the Pacific. Ultimately, these campaigns collectively redefined the American approach to warfare in the Pacific. The lessons were not confined to strategy or tactics. They shaped leadership, resilience, and the very understanding of courage under fire. The Marines and soldiers who survived returned home transformed, bearing the weight of their experiences, yet their efforts ensured the eventual success of operations against Japan. The sacrifices at Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa became the foundation of victory in the Pacific, demonstrating the interplay of strategy, courage, and human endurance. The geography of the Pacific Islands presented unique tactical challenges. Coral reefs, volcanic terrain, dense jungles, and hidden caves created environments where conventional tactics often failed. Commanders realized that precise planning and adaptation were as crucial as raw firepower. Reconnaissance, both aerial and naval, became indispensable, and Marines were trained to navigate and exploit terrain to their advantage. Every inch of land gained came at a calculated risk, and the cost of misjudgment could be catastrophic. Guadalcanal had taught the importance of supply lines under threat. Ammunition, medical supplies, and reinforcements had to traverse dangerous waters under enemy observation. At Tarawa, the reefs slowed landing craft, exposing Marines to relentless fire. Iwo Jima and Okinawa revealed that terrain, combined with fortified defenses, magnified the lethality of every engagement. The United States adapted by integrating engineers into combat operations, employing specialized landing vehicles, and developing combined arms tactics that synchronized infantry, artillery, air support, and naval fire. Leadership was tested as never before. Junior officers and NCOs bore immense responsibility, often making life-or-death decisions in real time. Acts of initiative, leading a squad under fire, improvising a solution to a logistical problem, or rescuing the wounded, often determined the success of a mission. Marines learned to rely on each other as much as on doctrine, forging bonds of trust and resilience that became essential in the face of overwhelming adversity. The Japanese defenders employed a strategy of attrition, understanding that the vast U.S. industrial advantage could be mitigated through inflicting maximum casualties. Every tunnel, bunker, and pillbox represented a deliberate effort to slow the Americans and drain morale. This approach, though ultimately unsuccessful in the strategic sense, imposed profound psychological strain and required relentless adaptation by U.S. forces. Marines responded with a combination of patience, tactical innovation, and sheer determination. Medical care under fire became a critical component of operational planning. Casualties were immediate, and medics worked tirelessly under constant threat. Evacuation procedures evolved alongside battlefield tactics, with forward aid stations, stretcher teams, and field hospitals integrated into the assault planning. The ability to sustain combat effectiveness in such conditions relied as much on medical innovation and care as on firepower and strategy. The experience of civilians on the islands added a layer of complexity. In Okinawa, tens of thousands of non-combatants were caught in the crossfire, while on Iwo Jima, the population was largely absent due to prior evacuations. Military planners had to account for potential humanitarian crises, balancing operational objectives with ethical responsibilities. The interactions between troops and civilians, however brief, revealed the human side of war amid overwhelming violence. Each battle honed the Marines' understanding of amphibious warfare. Pre-landing bombardments became more precise, artillery support more coordinated, and communication between units more sophisticated. The iterative nature of these campaigns ensured that every lesson, however costly, contributed to improved operational effectiveness. The American military emerged from each engagement not only victorious, but more capable of confronting the challenges of the Pacific theater. The cumulative experience of these campaigns had a profound impact on morale and national perception. The public witnessed the intensity and cost of combat, fostering both respect for the Marines and urgency to sustain the war effort. The human stories, acts of heroism, survival against overwhelming odds, and camaraderie forged in fire, provided an emotional narrative that complemented the strategic achievements. Together, they told the story of a military learning, adapting, and persevering in one of history's most grueling theaters of war. As the Pacific Campaign progressed, the scale and complexity of operations increased dramatically. The islands were no longer merely strategic objectives. They had become lethal proving grounds where every tactical innovation was tested against the resolve of the enemy. The Marines' experiences at Guadalcanal and Tarawa informed the planning of Iwo Jima and Okinawa, yet each new operation revealed fresh challenges. The Japanese defenders had adapted, constructing intricate networks of tunnels, bunkers, and hidden artillery, transforming even the smallest islands into near-impenetrable fortresses. These adaptations forced American forces to innovate relentlessly, employing flamethrowers, demolition teams, and specialized infantry tactics to breach defenses. The psychological warfare inherent in island assaults became more pronounced. Marines faced the constant threat of ambush, booby traps, and sniper fire, while the unforgiving environment compounded fatigue, hunger, and disease. The volcanic ash of Iwo Jima, the coral reefs of Tarawa, and the dense hills of Okinawa created terrain that was as deadly as any weapon. Each step forward demanded both physical endurance and mental fortitude, requiring soldiers to confront the fear of death while maintaining cohesion under fire. The human element, courage, leadership, and initiative, proved as decisive as firepower in determining outcomes. Naval and air support emerged as vital elements of combined arms strategy. Battleships, destroyers, and carriers provided artillery barges to soften enemy defenses before landings, while aircraft patrolled overhead, striking fortifications and disrupting supply lines. Yet even this overwhelming firepower could not guarantee safety. Kamikaze attacks at Okinawa and hidden pillboxes at Iwo Jima exacted a devastating toll, illustrating the limits of technology when pitted against human ingenuity and determination. Commanders had to constantly balance aggression with caution, ensuring that support was effective without causing excessive friendly casualties. Leadership under fire became a defining feature of these campaigns. Officers and non-commissioned officers made instantaneous decisions that could determine life or death for entire units. Improvisation and initiative were critical as battlefields became chaotic, fluid, and unpredictable. Small unit leaders bore the weight of responsibility, guiding their men through enemy fire, orchestrating assaults on fortified positions, and maintaining morale in the face of staggering losses. These acts of courage and tactical brilliance often proved decisive, turning seemingly impossible situations into hard-won victories. Casualty management and medical care evolved alongside combat tactics. Field hospitals, evacuation procedures, and forward medics became indispensable in sustaining combat effectiveness. The brutal reality of high casualty rates forced commanders to integrate medical logistics into planning, ensuring that wounded Marines could be stabilized and evacuated under fire. These systems, born of necessity, reflected the maturation of American military operations in the Pacific and demonstrated an understanding of the interplay between combat strategy and human survival. The civilian dimension added further complexity. On Okinawa, Tens of thousands of civilians were trapped in combat zones, their lives intertwined with the advancing and defending forces. The U.S. military often struggled to provide protection and minimize casualties, highlighting the ethical and operational challenges of modern warfare. Civilians became witnesses, victims, and sometimes participants in the conflict, emphasizing the multifaceted consequences of strategic decisions. Their experiences added a profound human dimension to the narrative of victory and loss. Technology and innovation were continuously tested and refined. Amphibious vehicles, naval gunfire coordination, aerial reconnaissance, and flamethrower tactics were iteratively improved with each operation. Engineers, logisticians, and combat leaders collaborated to solve problems in real time, demonstrating adaptability under extreme pressure. These innovations reduced casualties where possible and increased operational effectiveness, ensuring that lessons learned on one island could be applied immediately to the next. By the conclusion of these successive assaults, the U.S. military had transformed its approach to warfare in the Pacific. Each battle had sharpened strategy, coordination, and the human capacity to endure. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa together demonstrated the lethal efficiency and adaptability of American forces, the resilience of the individual Marine, and the strategic foresight required to confront a determined and inventive enemy. The Pacific theater had become both a proving ground and a testament to the human spirit in extremis. The human cost of the Pacific Island hopping campaign was staggering. Thousands of Marines and soldiers lost their lives, tens of thousands were wounded, and countless others endured the lasting psychological trauma of sustained combat. The intense heat, disease, and malnutrition compounded the brutality of each assault. Soldiers faced the constant presence of death, witnessing friends fall to machine guns, artillery, and booby traps, while carrying out missions under relentless pressure. Despite this, camaraderie, trust, and mutual reliance forged bonds that allowed units to operate effectively under extraordinary stress. Enemy combatants demonstrated equal determination. Japanese forces embraced attrition and prepared for last stands, exploiting terrain and tunnel systems to maximize casualties. Kamikaze pilots at Okinawa epitomized a terrifying commitment to sacrifice, attacking Allied ships with devastating effect. These tactics imposed profound physical and psychological burdens on U.S. forces, shaping both operational decisions and strategic planning. Combat in the Pacific demanded not only courage but adaptability, resilience, and unwavering focus under the most harrowing conditions. Amphibious warfare required meticulous preparation. Reconnaissance missions, intelligence gathering, and pre-assault bombardments were critical to survival. Landing crafts and vehicles were modified to overcome coral reefs, soft sand, and other obstacles. Artillery, naval gunfire, and air support were synchronized with infantry movements to provide maximum suppression of enemy defenses. The integration of technology and human skill was crucial, and mistakes were often catastrophic. Every detail, from tide calculations to the placement of smoke screens, could determine the success or failure of an operation. The logistical complexity of these campaigns was staggering. Supplies of food, water, ammunition, and medical equipment had to be maintained over vast distances, often under threat from enemy fire. Engineers constructed roads, landing zones, and field hospitals under hostile conditions. Coordination between Navy, Air Force, and ground units required precise timing and communication. Without these intricate systems, the success of operations like Iwo Jima and Okinawa would have been impossible. The human ingenuity and discipline required to sustain these efforts were as vital as the courage of frontline troops. Medical treatment and evacuation evolved rapidly in response to battlefield conditions. Forward aid stations, stretcher teams, and casualty evacuation protocols were integrated into assault planning. Medics worked under fire, often at great personal risk, to stabilize and evacuate the wounded. The efficiency of these systems directly influenced morale and combat effectiveness. Survival rates improved not only due to medical skill, but also because of the planning and coordination that anticipated the human cost of modern warfare. Morale and psychological resilience were critical determinants of success. Soldiers and Marines drew strength from unit cohesion, leadership, and shared purpose. Small victories, clearing a bunker, capturing a ridge, or rescuing a comrade, offered moments of relief amid chaos. Yet the relentless stress, loss of friends, and prolonged exposure to combat created a profound psychological burden. Commanders recognized the importance of maintaining morale through leadership, clear objectives, and mutual support among troops. The lessons of these campaigns extended far beyond the immediate battlefield. Amphibious tactics, combined arms coordination, and the integration of intelligence and logistics became central to U.S. military doctrine. Each island assault provided data on enemy behavior, terrain challenges, and operational efficiency. This iterative process of learning, adaptation, and innovation not only shaped the Pacific War, but informed the development of modern amphibious warfare principles. Ultimately, the Pacific Campaign illustrated the interplay between strategy, technology, and human endurance. Victory was achieved not solely through overwhelming firepower, but through courage, improvisation, and the ability to learn under extreme conditions. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa together represented the crucible in which American forces honed their operational doctrine, endured staggering losses, and forged a path to eventual victory over Japan. As the Marines and soldiers advanced across the Pacific, the scope of the conflict revealed itself not only in the scale of combat, but in the cumulative toll on both the individual and the collective. Guadalcanal and Tarawa had introduced them to the horrors of amphibious warfare. Iwo Jima and Okinawa expanded that experience into protracted engagements where every ridge, tunnel, and bunker was a potential death trap. The human psyche was tested alongside the body. Fear, fatigue, and grief were constant companions, yet discipline and camaraderie allowed soldiers to continue. Leadership became as crucial as firepower, with small unit commanders making life-or-death decisions in the chaos of combat. The Japanese defensive strategy forced U.S. forces to evolve continually. In each successive island, defenders employed tunnels, hidden bunkers, and overlapping fields of fire to maximize casualties and slow the American advance. Kamikaze tactics at Okinawa and booby trap positions at Iwo Jima exemplified a relentless, almost fanatical commitment to defense. Marines learned to combine intelligence, artillery, air support, and engineering ingenuity to neutralize these threats. Victory demanded not only courage but continuous adaptation, creativity, and an understanding of terrain and human behavior under pressure. Combined arms coordination became a central tenet of operational success. Naval bombardment, airstrikes, and infantry assaults had to operate in perfect synchrony. Timing was critical. Naval artillery suppressed enemy positions, while infantry moved forward to secure beachheads and ridges, and aircraft patrolled overhead to disrupt reinforcements. Each operation refined communication, synchronization, and tactical foresight. Mistakes were costly, often measured in lives lost, but each correction improved future operational efficiency. Logistical ingenuity shaped the outcome of campaigns. Supplying troops across thousands of miles of open ocean, under threat from enemy submarines, aircraft, and artillery, required extraordinary organization. Engineers constructed landing sites, roads, and field hospitals under fire, while supply units ensured ammunition, food, and medical support reached the front lines. These efforts were as vital as combat actions, proving that victory in the Pacific depended on the seamless integration of human endurance, technology, and logistics. Medical care and casualty management evolved with experience. Forward medics worked under unrelenting fire, stabilizing and evacuating the wounded with ingenuity and courage. Evacuation chains, from battlefield aid stations to hospital ships, became increasingly sophisticated, saving thousands of lives. This attention to human survival reinforced morale, demonstrating that each individual was valued and that the collective effort extended beyond immediate combat objectives. The civilian dimension added profound ethical and operational challenges. On Okinawa, tens of thousands of civilians were caught in combat zones, while on other islands, populations had been evacuated or suppressed by occupying forces. Marines and soldiers confronted the moral complexity of modern warfare, balancing operational necessity with efforts to protect innocents. The experiences of civilians highlighted the wider consequences of strategic decisions, embedding a humanistic awareness into military operations. Each island campaign reshaped American military doctrine. Engineers, tacticians, and commanders applied lessons learned from previous assaults, refining amphibious strategies, integrating firepower and reconnaissance, and improving communication systems. Technology was adapted to meet environmental challenges, from specialized landing craft to flamethrowers capable of clearing bunkers. This iterative learning process underscored the dynamic nature of warfare in the Pacific and the capacity of human innovation under duress. Ultimately, the Pacific Campaign was both a strategic and human crucible. The Marines and soldiers who fought there endured the most extreme conditions of combat, confronted death daily, and adapted to challenges that combined natural obstacles, enemy ingenuity, and logistical complexity. Their collective experience not only secured strategic victories, but forged a legacy of courage, endurance, and tactical brilliance that would define American military capability for generations. The accumulation of lessons from Guadalcanal to Okinawa profoundly shaped the final stages of the Pacific War. Commanders understood that each island assault had served as both tactical experiment and crucible for human resilience. Pre-landing bombardments became more precise, naval coordination more sophisticated, and amphibious vehicles were engineered to overcome natural obstacles. The integration of air, land, and sea power became seamless, reflecting the evolution of modern military doctrine. Every operation informed the next, ensuring that Marines and soldiers approached each new challenge with hard-earned knowledge. The Japanese strategy of attrition had proven both effective and costly. Defenders inflicted heavy casualties at Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa, yet their ability to resist was ultimately limited by industrial and logistical constraints. U.S. forces, leveraging overwhelming production capacity and operational flexibility, absorbed losses while maintaining offensive momentum. The contrast highlighted the centrality of resources, planning, and adaptability in modern warfare. It also reinforced the importance of preparation, foresight, and the human capacity to endure adversity under extreme conditions. The psychological toll on combatants was immense. Soldiers endured constant stress, the trauma of witnessing comrades killed, and the unpredictability of enemy tactics. Despite this, morale often remained high, anchored in trust, leadership, and shared purpose. Brief moments of relief, letters from home, small victories, or acts of heroism offered essential emotional sustenance. The Pacific campaigns demonstrated the delicate balance between physical endurance, mental resilience, and operational effectiveness, illustrating that human factors were as decisive as strategy or firepower. Kamikaze attacks and tunnel warfare forced constant innovation. Engineers, infantry, and medics collaborated to neutralize threats and sustain momentum. Flamethrowers, explosives, and specialized reconnaissance allowed small units to overcome entrenched positions. The iterative process of adapting tactics to the environment reflected both human ingenuity and the brutal necessity of survival. Victory required not only courage but also an ability to anticipate enemy behavior, exploit terrain, and innovate under life or death pressure. Medical and logistical systems were refined through experience. Casualty evacuation, forward aid stations, and supply chains became highly organized networks capable of sustaining protracted combat. Engineers constructed roads, airstrips, and field hospitals under fire, while naval convoys ensured the flow of supplies across vast distances. These systems directly impacted combat effectiveness, demonstrating that operational success was inseparable from human care, engineering skill, and strategic foresight. The civilian impact of the campaigns underscored the ethical complexities of warfare. On Okinawa, tens of thousands of civilians were trapped amidst fighting, facing starvation, forced conscription, and indiscriminate shelling. The U.S. military struggled to mitigate civilian casualties while pursuing objectives, highlighting the moral dimensions of combat. These experiences emphasize the broader human cost of strategic decisions and the responsibility borne by commanders in high-intensity conflict. Amphibious operations had reached unprecedented sophistication. Lessons from each battle informed tactics, coordination, and technological adaptation. Landing craft, artillery, and aerial reconnaissance were continually refined. Marines and soldiers trained rigorously, integrating knowledge from prior assaults into rehearsals, planning, and execution. This cumulative learning ensured that successive operations, while still deadly, were increasingly efficient, demonstrating the interplay between preparation, innovation, and human courage. By 1945, the U.S. military had become a force honed by the Pacific Crucible. The combination of industrial strength, tactical innovation, and human resilience ensured that each assault, no matter how costly, contributed to a strategic trajectory that would ultimately force Japan to surrender. The legacy of Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa was not only victory, but the demonstration of how strategy, technology, and human determination converged to alter the course of history. The lessons of the Pacific Island campaigns reverberated beyond the battlefield, influencing the ultimate strategy against Japan. The overwhelming casualties sustained at Iwo Jima and Okinawa revealed the likely cost of a mainland invasion, shaping the decision to employ atomic weapons to force surrender. Strategists realized that each island had provided more than a tactical foothold. It had offered insight into Japanese defensive doctrine, human endurance, and the limits of conventional assault. The painstaking capture of each island underscored that victory in the Pacific required a combination of firepower, planning, and the extraordinary resilience of individual soldiers and Marines. The human narrative was inseparable from the strategic. Letters, diaries, and photographs captured moments of courage, despair, and camaraderie, revealing the psychological landscape of soldiers enduring extreme conditions. Men confronted death daily, often witnessing comrades perish in brutal combat, yet continued to press forward, bound by duty, trust, and shared purpose. Acts of heroism, storming bunkers under fire, rescuing wounded comrades, or leading charges against fortified positions, became defining moments in the collective memory of the Pacific War. Naval supremacy had proven decisive. Carrier-based aircraft, battleships, and destroyers provided vital support, softening enemy defenses before landings and responding to emergent threats. The coordination of sea and land forces had evolved into a complex, highly efficient machine of war. Yet, even with overwhelming firepower, success depended on human adaptability, decision-making under fire, and the capacity to execute complex operations amidst chaos. The interplay between technology and human skill was now at the heart of military doctrine. Air superiority, another critical factor, allowed for reconnaissance, close support, and interdiction of enemy reinforcements. Pilots and aircrew faced anti-aircraft fire, treacherous weather, and the threat of kamikaze attacks. Their contributions were pivotal in shaping the battlefield, enabling Marines to advance and consolidating the strategic advantage gained by amphibious operations. The synergy between air, sea, and land forces became a hallmark of successful Pacific campaigns. Logistics remained the backbone of sustained operations. Supplies, ammunition, food, and medical care had to traverse thousands of miles of ocean, often under threat from submarines and aircraft. Engineers, sailors, and support personnel ensured that frontline units remained combat effective despite the intensity of the fighting. Without these networks, the heroic efforts of infantry units would have been futile. The campaigns revealed the indispensable role of support systems in modern warfare. Civilians bore an often overlooked burden. In Okinawa, tens of thousands suffered displacement, injury, and death. Across other islands, populations had been evacuated or suppressed, yet their presence shaped operational planning, highlighting the moral and humanitarian dimensions of combat. Soldiers were constantly reminded that war extended beyond enemy combatants, encompassing the lives and suffering of innocent bystanders. These experiences would leave lasting impressions on both military strategy and post-war reconciliation efforts. Technological adaptation became essential. Flamethrowers, demolition charges, artillery coordination, and specialized landing vehicles were continually refined to meet environmental challenges. Each innovation arose from necessity, reflecting the symbiosis of human ingenuity and battlefield imperatives. These adaptations enhanced operational efficiency and reduced casualties where possible, ensuring that lessons from one island informed the next. The Pacific campaigns, taken together, demonstrated that victory was a product of cumulative learning, human resilience, and strategic foresight. Marines and soldiers endured unimaginable hardship, faced relentless enemies, and adapted continuously to survive and succeed. Their sacrifices not only secured tactical victories, but also shaped the broader trajectory of the war, illustrating how determination, skill, and courage can alter the course of history. The psychological toll of prolonged combat cannot be overstated. Marines faced relentless danger, witnessing comrades fall and surviving attacks that left permanent scars, physical and emotional. Letters and personal accounts reveal soldiers grappling with fear, exhaustion, and the moral weight of taking lives in the crucible of war. Yet these narratives also reveal the sustaining power of camaraderie, trust, and shared purpose. Small acts of kindness, moments of humor, and mutual support became lifelines, allowing units to endure the unrelenting pressures of combat. Attrition defined both strategy and experience. Japanese defenders utilized tunnels, caves, and fortified positions to maximize casualties, forcing Americans to adapt continually. Kamikaze pilots and hidden artillery at Okinawa exemplified the ingenuity and desperation of defenders. For U.S. forces, adaptation meant integrating reconnaissance, firepower, and engineering expertise to overcome obstacles. The interplay between enemy tactics and American innovation became a defining feature of the Pacific War. Leadership in combat had an outsized impact. Junior officers and non-commissioned officers bore responsibilities that could determine survival or death for entire units. Decisions had to be made in seconds: which positions to attack, how to maneuver under fire, and how to evacuate the wounded. Courage, decisiveness, and initiative at the small unit level often determined the course of engagements, illustrating that human factors could outweigh sheer numbers or firepower. Medical support and logistics evolved to meet the scale of the campaigns. Casualty evacuation, forward aid stations, and hospital ships became intricately coordinated systems capable of sustaining large-scale assaults. Engineers ensured mobility, built infrastructure, and maintained supply lines under fire. These systems not only saved lives but reinforced morale, enabling Marines to fight with the confidence that help would reach them if wounded. The civilian dimension shaped operational ethics. On Okinawa, tens of thousands of non-combatants were imperiled by the fighting. Marines and commanders faced the constant challenge of achieving objectives while minimizing civilian casualties. The moral dilemmas of urban and island warfare highlighted the complexity of combat, reminding soldiers and planners that warfare is as much about human responsibility as it is about strategy. Every battle honed American amphibious doctrine. Coordinated pre-landing bombardments, specialized landing vehicles, and synchronized fire support evolved to overcome environmental and enemy challenges. Engineers, infantry, and command units adapted lessons from previous assaults to improve efficiency and survivability. This iterative approach ensured that each subsequent operation, while still deadly, was increasingly precise and effective. Technological adaptation became inseparable from human ingenuity. Flamethrowers cleared bunkers, demolition teams neutralized obstacles, and artillery coordination suppressed defenses. The integration of innovation and skill exemplified the capacity of humans to overcome extreme challenges. The lessons of each campaign informed the next, creating a continuum of knowledge that propelled operations forward with increasing sophistication. Ultimately, the Pacific campaigns highlighted the interplay of strategy, technology, and human endurance. Success depended on the courage and resilience of individual Marines and soldiers, the ingenuity of commanders, and the seamless integration of resources. Each victory, hard-won and costly, forged the path to Japan and ultimately contributed to the war's decisive conclusion. As the final operations approached, the cumulative knowledge of Pacific warfare was evident. From Guadalcanal to Okinawa, American forces had learned to anticipate Japanese defensive tactics, integrate firepower and logistics, and manage the immense human costs of combat. Amphibious assaults became more precise, coordinated, and adaptable. Soldiers and Marines had evolved, gaining not only experience, but also an acute understanding of the interplay between terrain, enemy behavior, and tactical innovation. The anticipation of an invasion of Japan's home islands shaped strategic decision-making. Commanders recognized that the cost would be staggering, informed by the brutal experiences on Iwo Jima and Okinawa. The Pacific Islands had become laboratories for testing amphibious doctrine, attrition management, and battlefield coordination. Each assault contributed vital intelligence, improved tactics, and strengthened morale, even in the face of staggering casualties. Psychological resilience remained central to success. Soldiers endured intense stress, loss, and fear daily, yet the bonds of unit cohesion, trust in leadership, and shared mission allowed them to persist. Acts of heroism, storming fortified positions, rescuing wounded comrades, or improvising solutions under fire, illustrated the capacity of humans to endure extreme adversity. The Pacific War was as much a test of character as it was of military strategy. Logistics and medical systems underpinned operational success. Forward aid stations, hospital ships, and supply chains ensured that troops could sustain prolonged assaults. Engineers, medics, and support personnel were as essential to victory as infantry units, demonstrating the integrated nature of modern warfare. Lessons from each campaign informed improvements, ensuring that subsequent operations, however deadly, were executed with increasing efficiency. Civilian suffering added a complex moral dimension. Tens of thousands of Okinawans were killed or displaced, while other island populations had been evacuated or suppressed. Soldiers and commanders grappled with operational necessity versus humanitarian responsibility. The experience underscored the profound human consequences of war and emphasized that military strategy extends beyond combat objectives. Amphibious operations had reached unparalleled sophistication. Combined arms coordination, pre-landing bombardments, specialized vehicles, and adaptive tactics ensured that assaults could succeed even under intense enemy resistance. Each operation reflected an accumulation of knowledge from previous engagements, demonstrating that experience, innovation, and courage were inseparable in achieving strategic objectives. Technological adaptation complemented human ingenuity. New weapons, vehicles, and artillery systems were developed in response to environmental challenges and enemy tactics. The fusion of innovation and bravery allowed U.S. forces to overcome obstacles that might have been insurmountable. Each adaptation saved lives, accelerated objectives, and increased operational effectiveness. By the war's conclusion, the Pacific campaigns had created a legacy of strategic mastery and human endurance. The sacrifices, innovations, and lessons forged across Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa shaped not only the outcome of World War II, but also the principles of modern amphibious and combined arms warfare. These islands bore witness to the extraordinary capacity of humans to confront fear, adapt, and persevere in the face of unimaginable adversity. The culmination of the Pacific War underscored the decisive impact of these island campaigns. The ability of American forces to project power across vast oceans, integrate air, land, and sea operations, and sustain troops under extreme conditions had reshaped warfare. Each operation demonstrated that victory required not only technology and planning, but also human endurance, ingenuity, and courage. The islands were more than strategic objectives. They were crucibles where military doctrine, human resilience, and moral responsibility were tested to their limits. The personal cost of these campaigns was staggering. Tens of thousands of soldiers and Marines were killed or wounded, many enduring trauma that would last a lifetime. Yet amidst the horrors of combat, stories of heroism, sacrifice, and perseverance emerged. Marines carried wounded comrades, led charges under withering fire, and endured hardships unimaginable to civilians. These acts defined the human narrative of the Pacific War, highlighting both the brutality of conflict and the extraordinary capacity of individuals to endure and overcome. Strategic lessons informed subsequent operations and post-war planning. Commanders understood that overwhelming preparation, combined arms coordination, and adaptive leadership could mitigate, but never eliminate, the risks inherent in amphibious assaults. Engineers, logisticians, and medics had proven their indispensable value. These campaigns created a blueprint for modern warfare, demonstrating the interplay between human skill, technological innovation, and strategic foresight. the civilian dimension continued to shape historical understanding. On Okinawa, the scale of civilian suffering highlighted the profound ethical challenges of war. Commanders grappled with achieving objectives while minimizing harm to non-combatants, a dilemma that resonated far beyond the Pacific theater. These experiences emphasized the responsibility of military power, underscoring that the human consequences of strategy extend beyond the battlefield. Innovation and adaptation became hallmarks of American operations. New weapons, specialized vehicles, and coordinated firepower allowed Marines to overcome previously insurmountable defenses. The cumulative experience of Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa ensured that each subsequent assault was increasingly efficient, effective, and survivable, even in the most hostile environments. Morale and psychological resilience remained central to operational success. Acts of leadership, bravery, and mutual support allowed units to function under extreme stress. Soldiers and Marines drew strength from shared purpose, trust, and brief moments of relief, sustaining them through the relentless challenges of combat. The human factor remained as decisive as any weapon or technology. The Pacific campaigns ultimately demonstrated the interplay of strategy, human endurance, and innovation. Success depended on the seamless integration of multiple elements: planning, logistics, technology, leadership, and courage. Each victory, hard-won and costly, contributed to the eventual surrender of Japan and reshaped the understanding of modern warfare. The islands themselves became enduring symbols of sacrifice and triumph. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa stand as monuments to courage, resilience, and the extraordinary capacity of humans to confront fear, adapt to adversity, and achieve the seemingly impossible under the most extreme conditions imaginable. The legacy of the Pacific Island hopping campaign endures in history, strategy, and memory. These battles exemplify the lethal combination of human courage, tactical innovation, and strategic foresight required to overcome seemingly insurmountable challenges. The lessons forged in the crucible of Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa shaped the outcome of World War II and informed the evolution of amphibious and combined arms warfare for generations to come. The human dimension of these campaigns remains central to their story. Marines and soldiers endured unimaginable hardship, confronted death daily, and bore witness to the suffering of comrades and civilians alike. Acts of heroism, leadership, and mutual support defined the lived experience of combat, offering enduring lessons about resilience, sacrifice, and the moral complexities of warfare. Strategically, the Pacific assaults demonstrated the necessity of preparation, coordination, and adaptability. Reconnaissance, combined arms tactics, and logistical ingenuity proved decisive in overcoming heavily fortified positions. Each operation reflected a cumulative understanding of enemy behavior, terrain, and operational limitations, resulting in victories that were both hard-won and transformative. The psychological impact on combatants was profound and lasting. Survivors carried the memory of intense fear, loss, and endurance, alongside pride in accomplishment and camaraderie forged under fire. These experiences shaped military culture, leadership principles, and the understanding of human performance under extreme conditions. The Pacific campaigns became a benchmark for evaluating courage, resilience, and the human capacity to endure sustained adversity. Civilians bore a heavy burden, their suffering underscoring the moral complexity of warfare. Displacement, death, and destruction accompanied military operations, highlighting the responsibility borne by commanders and the unintended consequences of strategic objectives. Their experiences remain an essential part of the historical record, offering a sobering reminder of the human cost of war beyond combatants. Technological and tactical innovation defined the campaign. Flamethrowers, demolition teams, amphibious vehicles, coordinated artillery, and air support were continuously refined to meet environmental and operational challenges. These innovations reflected the synergy between human ingenuity and necessity, demonstrating the capacity to adapt, survive, and prevail even in the most hostile conditions. The cumulative effect of these campaigns was both strategic and moral. The capture of key islands enabled the eventual defeat of Japan, providing bases, airfields, and staging points critical to final operations. Yet the victories were inseparable from the extraordinary human sacrifice, highlighting the intertwined nature of strategy, endurance, and moral responsibility. Ultimately, the story of the Pacific War is one of courage, adaptability, and human resilience. Guadalcanal, Tarawa, Iwo Jima, and Okinawa stand as enduring testaments to the Marines and soldiers who faced unimaginable challenges and emerged victorious. Their legacy transcends strategy and tactics, embodying the extraordinary capacity of humans to confront fear, innovate under pressure, and achieve the impossible in the pursuit of a higher purpose.